Hi, I'm Neil Sackmary.
Hi, I'm State Trooper Sean Hagstrom with the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol Division, PEIO. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Trooper Talk.
And together, we can make a difference.
Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with this edition of Trooper Talk. We have very special guests today. We have Trooper Hagstrom, who's here. We have Sergeant Donaldson, who is a sergeant now, not a trooper.
Yeah.
And we have Sergeant Clifton here from Parole and Probation. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We're a little bit more spread out now. We have the TVs like this. It's
New studio.
New-
Looks
new-
great.
new studio.
Very
Absolutely.
nice.
I don't know where to start because I have so many questions. You know what I mean? I saw a white car out front that didn't look like a regular car. You know what I'm saying? That
Sure.
I'm sure people blow by at 130. You know what I'm saying? We have the legend. You know what I'm saying?
He is a legend.
Who's in the middle, which we talk about all the time, from when you were in Washington to where you are today, and how you inspire not only yourself but all the people underneath you to do better. And Trooper Hagstrom, thanks for always bringing on different people and things like this. So let's start off with Sergeant Clifton.
All right.
You are a sergeant in parole and probation.
Yep.
I would like to talk about a few different things. The first thing is that people that work for parole and probation are civilians that do a tremendous amount of behind the scenes work that you're always looking to hire, because they're always people that are needed in this position. On top of which, your job consists of many different things. And so most people think, oh, sergeants, they just sit behind a desk and they do nothing, and that's what they do in the day. And this is not the case. So talk to us about the civilian side, about the recruiting side, and then talk to us about some of the daily things that you do on your day to help protect the city.
Sure. So our civilian staff, starting from the bottom entry-level positions, you have everything from receptionists to file clerks, people who do the mail. Going up there, you have supervisory positions over those. That's all of our administrative staff. They are the ones who make the place run. They get our files set up. They do our new offender orientations. They get officers what they need, everything in our computers set up, ready to go, so the officers have it when they start supervising the individual. On the specialist side, those are the people who supervise cases that are out of state for in case of interstate compact. They are people who supervise people that have come into the state on interstate compact, and those who are low risk offenders as a tool we use to justify supervision levels. So they're actually doing the job of an officer as a civilian. They're just not doing the field work, so they're not going to home contacts, they're not doing drug tests, things like that. Officers still do those, but they're literally doing the job of an officer, getting those contacts and making changes in people's lives. You also have pre-sentence investigators who, that's the majority of our civilian staff, the pre-sentence investigators. They are the ones who prepare reports, pre-sentence reports for the courts. So what that is you, if Neil, you're convicted of a crime, you'd come into our office and we would do basically a background on you. Everything from birth to today that we want to know about you, including your education level, your marital status, your work history, a number of other things, criminal history as well, that are in there, and they go through, it's about an hour-long interview, probably sometimes an hour and a half, and they're going through everything. So we prepare that for the court. The judge then reads that, the DA and the defense attorney read that, and the sentencing decision can be made based upon everything in that document. So that writer is doing a crucial role for us as a division, but the state of Nevada as a whole, because that document can mean whether someone gets probation or goes to prison. And, obviously it's kind of repeating what is in the offender's history. However, that's very important and crucial. So on the civilian side, those are the main tasks. We have other things with technology people. We have people in fleet, things like that. But on the sworn side, me as a sergeant, my day-to-day operations, I do a lot of desk work. That's not untrue. but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I supervise officers. So just last Thursday, I found myself, I jokingly said to my officer, it was 3:30, I'm off at 5, right? I said to him, hey, let's go do this home contact. I'll see if I have to burn some leave before I go home, right? Because it was halfway to my house. I'm just going to go home after we're done. Well, I was on until 5:30 because it turned into an arrest. I mean, just not to get into the whole thing of it, but I mean, we go into the house. I find someone hiding in the house. I'm like, it's one of those things where it turned into an absolute disaster of a home contact. But I have to do that as well. Yeah, it happens, right?
And so you don't, when you're walking into a house, you don't know what you're walking into.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
We know who we're trying to see,
right.
but we never know what's going to be inside that house. And the thing about P&P is versus highway patrol, a big difference is with the highway patrol, it's a complete unknown for them. They walk up to a window, they don't know who they're going to find, right? It could be a grandma, it could be a punk with a gun. You don't know, right? Generally speaking, when I go to a house, I know I'm looking for, John Smith or whatever, and I know what his crime is, I know what his history is because I have that pre-sentence report which tells me everything about him, right? So I know what I'm going to expect, but I know that every person I see has done a bad thing, right? So generally speaking, we're seeing all the bad people. We know they're bad people. We're trying to make them better, but we know they're bad people, right? They have the complete unknown. At least I have some sort of knowing what's going on. But I mean, in the last couple years, I've done hundreds of home contacts with my officers or on my own, right? And I've seen some interesting things. And this one, just I don't want to go too much into it, but it was a sex offender who I was seeing because I'm supervisor of the sex offender unit now, and I'm going through his phone, and I'm like, wait a second, you ordered an Uber for someone who got here 15 minutes ago. Where is this person? And and he's like, oh, no, he came and saw me and left. I'm like, no. Based upon what you were saying in this text thread, where is this guy? And he says, oh, he's in the back room, right? And so as my response, right, so for some perspective, I'm looking this way at the kitchen. The back room is over here to my right. I turn, and the safest thing for me to do is to draw out my gun and say, hey, come out with your hands up. I know you're back there, come out with your hands up. I had to call him out for about a minute before he comes out. Okay, sorry. It's a scary situation because you don't know who is back there. You don't know what is back there, right?
And this brings into light something that I wanted to talk about, which is that you put your life on the line every single day when you put on your uniform.
Yeah.
Sergeant Donaldson goes out on the road. How many DUIs did you get last year? Right?
66.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, when we talk about people that are impaired, we know, I know because I watch these TV programs, right, that people behave differently when they're impaired and when they're not impaired, right? So you could have the greatest person in the world and they are impaired and they are totally different. And so, when you get behind someone to do your business, you're reading this just like Sergeant Clifton said, okay, this person got pulled over for, doing this or, whatever's in your database there, right? But you don't know that when you walk up to that window and you say, hi, this is what I'm doing here, that person's like, oh, it's great to see, you don't know. And so when it comes to the DUIs, okay, you take that to the exponential level, and every single person in the department finds you as an inspiration for what it is that you do when it comes to the DUIs and getting people prepared to get these people off the road.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate
I almost
that.
got you speechless there. You know what I'm saying?
You did.
Took his breath away.
You have a way of making me blush.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate that, and I'm honored to work amongst a great group of people here in Las Vegas, both Highway Patrol, PMP. I mean, we work hand in hand with each other. You know, if they're out at night and they need cover, we're there for them. A lot of times they can help us with information we need on individuals that are arrested for, you know, a second or third DUI or have warrants. People that run from us and maybe successfully get away at the time of the stop, they can help us track them down later. But yeah, when you know, I've worked 20 years in patrol. Actually, 1 year I was off of patrol in Washington doing a specialty gig, but I like working at night under the cover of darkness. It gives me a little, in my opinion, an extra degree of protection because I can use the darkness when I'm approaching cars to come out of the shadows in an area maybe where the driver doesn't expect me to come from, so that I can see into that car before they can see me. It offers me a little degree of extra protection. It can also work the other way around too, though. So we have to be really careful. You know, there's a lot of training that goes into performing traffic stops at night, how to use your lights, how to position yourself, how to be able to see into a car. In the great state of Nevada, most everybody has tinted windows, obviously, because during the day it's hot. Seeing through tinted windows at night is very difficult. So, you know, I like to tell people, especially young drivers that don't have interactions with us or experience, you know, don't move around in the car when you're being stopped. Just keep your hands on the steering wheel and just wait until we tell you to reach for your license or your wallet or things like that. Some young drivers try to anticipate, oh, I need to get this, I need to get that. They start reaching around in the car. I tell people, you don't know what we're stopping you for. Your vehicle might match the description of an armed robbery suspect that was reported. The driver has a gun, and we're stopping you because you match that description. And now you're digging around in a car, and I have to take appropriate action to make sure that I stay safe. You might be staring down the barrel of a gun. You might be pulled out at gunpoint, proned out, handcuffed because you're not cooperative, and then you become argumentative because you don't understand why you're being stopped. Tell people the place to argue a traffic stop is in court, not on the side of the road. If you just simply wait, keep your hands on the steering wheel, and just do what you're asked to do when we approach you. If you have an issue, take it up in court, not on the side of the road. If you don't understand the situation, you can always ask for a supervisor when the time is right. Supervisor can come in and explain the situation to you. But traffic stops are, every one of them is a little bit different. You know, I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about this job so much is that every day, even though I go into patrol in the same area for the most part here in Vegas, it's always different. I've stopped hundreds, if not thousands of cars for speeding, but every one of those stops is a little bit different. And so with that in mind, it's an exciting job. It's always bringing something new. The people you interact with, you never know what they bring to the table as far as what they're going to interact with you about. And sometimes you have an opportunity to really help people through the tough part of their day with the different reasons that you hear for the excuses for speeding or why you know. I always ask that question, do you know why I stopped you? Yeah. And then why are you driving in this capacity? I like to hear what the reason is. Sometimes it's a legitimate reason, and a lot of times it's not. But it's interesting to hear what they have to say and why they're articulating to me that they feel they are allowed to break the law.
You know, it's very interesting because I used to drive fast in my car, right?
I think we've all been there.
And then when we started filming Trooper Talk, and I started becoming more and more friends with so many more troopers and more police officers, I found that when you pull someone over at a high rate of speed, or you get someone for a DUI or these type of activities, right? You're not asking these questions because you want to be a jerk.
No.
You're asking these questions because you legitimately care, and you're like, I just don't understand. So explain to me, like we always talk about, right? Why you needed to go 106 instead of 65, and you needed to get home 4 minutes before this, and now you're going to be 20 minutes late because I need to run your ID and I need to do all these type of things, right? Mm-hmm. And so to be able to have these gentlemen here, really big.
Oh, very well spoken. I mean, and I like how he articulates everything too. And one of the things that really upsets me though when I'm on a stop is when I have a grown person that's like in his 40s or 50s and straight lies to me. Nothing bothers me more than that because they know they're caught. You know, I just had this last week, you know, and tried to make all these excuses. But he's right. You hear everything. I like to ask him also, why are you going that far? Are you late for work or what's the issue today? So, yeah, this is a big problem in our valley is still speed. And like we've always talked about in the past, Neil, both speeding and impaired driving as our two major contributing factors for fatal traffic crashes here in the valley. And in order to get half of that pretty much shut down, we have to shut down the speed in the valley. I mean, it's ridiculous because even last week, I'm still pulling over people 106, 108 miles an hour on a 65. And we have our motor units out there. They still send me photos, and we're going to add them on here once in a while too, that they're still getting those speeds.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to be going that fast. And we have always talked before about, hey, plan ahead. Like today, people knew it was probably going to rain.
Right.
You know, if you pay attention to the news or something like that, we know it's coming. So guess what? Maybe you might want to leave a half an hour early. I left. I started out by Hualapai today, right, 2:15, and from Hualapai to Cheyenne, it took me 15 minutes just to go. That's how slow traffic was this morning. But I'm glad that the traffic was that slow, because now we're not seeing the crashes. People are being more cautious, and that's what we want people to do. So in those instances, when you know there's going to be inclement weather, always plan ahead. Leave early, like a half an hour or so. That's going to buy you some time. Gives you more time to relax before going to work, thinking about your work, and listen to the tunes and kind of just relax and get there in a timely manner.
Yeah.
It's so important. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask so people understand. When they get pulled over and they are found to be under the influence or whatever it might be, okay, and you look at them and say, please do me a favor and put your hands behind your back so I can put these beautiful bracelets on you, okay, that they're in those bracelets for not 5 minutes. It's not like, oh, it's you know, it's put them behind and then, you know, that's the end of it. And, oh, you know, while we drive down to the jail, I'm going to let you out because you're such a nice guy. No. You're in these bracelets until you get to jail. And then when you get to jail, you know, there are certain activities that happen.
It becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah, right? And then when you mouth off to people, they put you in a cell and say, when you calm down, then we will start helping you.
24 hours.
24 hours.
It's a 24-hour timeout, an adult timeout. It's called being side-celled. If you get lippy, you get argumentative, they will not tolerate it. And it's their house, their rules. I'm bringing you into Clark County Detention Center, CCDC, or City of Las Vegas Jail, primarily. There's Northtown, there's Henderson. But all of them are the same. They have specific rules inside that jail for the safety of you and everybody else that's there. And if you don't follow them, they're not playing around. Some people are really, and I'm sure you see this too, really are used to being able to argue and get away with saying, but why, and people will answer. They don't do that there. They're going to tell you once, and if you don't follow the rules, they're just not going to put up with it because you're impaired. You're not maybe realizing it because you are impaired, but they're just not going to deal with it. So they're going to side cell you for 24 hours. So you get a 24-hour timeout. Then they're going to bring you out. They're going to start over. And if you do it again, you get another 24 hours. Some people are down there for several days when it could be just a standard 12-hour hold that they've messed up. So I tell people, you know, when those bracelets go on, just take a breath. It is what it is. Let's get through it. We want to get you processed as quickly as possible. The jail wants you out of the jail as quickly as they can get you processed. But if you interfere with that, you're going to get yourself an extended ticket and possibly additional charges such as obstruction, resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, or battery of an officer, sneaking in contraband. If they've hidden contraband in body cavities or other areas that don't get found, and then that can be an additional charge for trying to sneak contraband into a control facility. So I had somebody fight with us the other day when the cuffs went to go on, and ended up getting tased several times and had an injury. We don't wish that on anybody. I wish people would just understand. You know, you made a decision. It was a bad decision, and now there's consequences. And let's just get through that, adult to adult, and then go on your way. And don't make the same mistake twice, and we'll move on.
The law is the law.
It is. It's not a surprise.
When someone breaks that law, you know, you are bound by the fact of, listen, you broke this law. You can be the nicest guy in the world. You can be my next door neighbor. I'm really, really sorry, but you broke the law, and now, you know, you could be impaired or whatever, which is primarily what we see.
Yeah.
But when you break the law, you're going to take care of business.
Well, like you mentioned, you know, you said you used to speed. I think we've all been there, right? But I think licensed drivers and even unlicensed drivers here in the state, just individuals in general, it's a calculated risk. Hiding that gentleman in the house, it's a calculated risk, right? Speeding, it's a calculated risk. I don't see any cops around today, so I'm late for work, so I need to get there, so I'm going to go faster than everybody else. And then when they get up next to the patrol car or they see a patrol car in front of them, the brakes go on. That tells me you have the intent to speed. You've made it very clear you know what you're doing is wrong, because as soon as you saw somebody that was going to enforce it, you applied the brakes and quickly adhered to the law. So you know the law. You can't say you didn't know later. Well, I didn't know I was going that fast. Well, you have a speedometer in front of you. You know, a lot of these electric vehicles now, these new modern vehicles, they tell you how fast the speed limit is. They tell you how fast you're going. Some of them even beep at you if you have it set to tell you what the speed limit is and let you know when you're speeding. So you can't say you didn't know. One of the things I was going to share when you brought up speeding is, you know, action versus reaction, right? Reaction time. It's a mathematical term, right? It's about 1.5 feet per second is what velocity is, right? And so reaction time for an average unimpaired adult, right? So let's call it sober, is about 1.5 seconds, right? 3/4 of a second to see what's going on in front of you, and 3/4 of a second for you to react to it and add input into the vehicle to avoid whatever it is going on in front of you, right? So if you factor in 1.5 seconds of reaction time, and then you figure your velocity, and let's just use 100 miles an hour because everybody seems to be doing it now. At 100 miles an hour, you're covering 150 feet per second, right? So you're close to 225 feet in reaction time before you even react to what's going on in front of you, right? So or somebody changes lanes in front of you at 100 miles an hour, you're not going to be able to avoid that. At night, driving with your headlights on, what we call this is overdriving your headlights. Your headlights only illuminate so many 100 feet in front of you. But if you're doing 120 miles an hour, by the time you get to whatever is in front of you, you're not going to be able to react to it because it's outside of your headlight path. Right? So people just don't understand. There's a reason, right? There's a reason why we enforce speed, right?
Right.
And that's with standard LED headlights. What if you're driving an older car that illuminates 50 feet in front of your car, right? 1976 Chevy, like I had in high school, right? So people just don't think about that kind of stuff, right? And then you add alcohol into the ball game, or you add marijuana, right? The legal controlled substances. There's a bunch of illegal controlled substances out there that will affect your reaction time. They affect your judgment. They affect your ability to multitask, right? To be able to go, oh, there's a speedometer in front of me. There's traffic. I need to maintain my lane. They don't see any of that. They see basically the hood emblem on the end of their hood, and they're driving home by braille. When they veer out of the lane, they hit those little road turtles, and they correct maybe. Or they just start drifting, straddling that line, thinking they're in their turn lane, or rather in their travel lane, until they hit that stuff. And that's how we get these accidents. Factor in the speed, the impaired judgment, and it's just a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for an empty chair at the dinner table tomorrow night. Some family's going to have somebody missing.
Yeah. Road turtles.
You know,
That's what I
I
call
like that term. That's a good term.
No, because here's the thing. When you're driving down the road, and again, let's come back to the fact that your car today, I don't know if that's what you drive normally, is unmarked,
it is.
right? And so definitely they're blown past you.
Oh yeah.
Right. But I never thought about the fact that, like, I have a couple, but I'm, you know, like, you're driving down the road and you hit those things and you don't know which lane you're in.
Yeah.
You could be in between two.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes send people to jail.
Yeah.
Jail or prison or whatever it is not necessarily a nice place. It is not a place.
There's nicer ones.
Some are nicer than others. Yeah.
But it's not a place that people want to typically go.
No.
And so when someone gets probation,
Mhm.
we've talked before that maybe they got in trouble for the DUI,
Yeah.
and this is the first time, so they got some form of probation, right? And not speaking specifically, just in a generalized term, right? And so that probation is a suspended sentence
Yes.
to what the judge says, look, this could be 3 years in jail, but I understand that you're a nice guy and that you have a job and a family, and that this is the only time you messed up in your life, and so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to sort of fix this.
Yeah.
But sometimes people do that and then they make the same mistake. Or
true.
sometimes you go there and they're not supposed to be doing these activities, and they could be sitting there slamming vodka down when you get there.
I think a really good example of that is, so we, in partnership with the 8th Judicial District Court, we run the DUI court. Okay, and that's something that's right up their alley, right? So the DUI court can be for a first-time offender. A lot of them are first-time offenders who have committed a DUI as substantial bodily harm or a DUI death. And the DUI death can carry a mandatory prison sentence.
Mandatory.
Yeah. That's not jail. That's prison.
It's prison.
Right.
Yes, and so you might be the greatest guy in the world who is a .09, crashes his car and kills somebody. You go to prison, right? So people think, oh, DUI, I'll spend 12 hours in jail, whatever, ha ha.
Fines and fees.
Fines and fees. Not necessarily. It can be a very serious offense with very serious consequences. So take, for example, the Raiders player. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but
Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs, right? So first-time offender that I'm aware of, and he crashes his car and kills Tina Tinter and her dog, right? He's in prison. That is what people think, oh, it's a misdemeanor. No, that's a felony, right? He's in prison for, I think, 4 to 12 years. So it was a hefty sentence, right?
And he got a lower sentence.
And he got a lower. I think it's an 8 to 20. If I'm remembering right, I think it's an 8 to 20. They can amend it down.
But
at
years,
judge's discretion.
though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Years.
Not
like,
days.
this isn't like 4 minutes, and this is years, 365 days a year,
Yeah.
In a
times
confined
4.
space, being told how to live.
And your life is now like, you're not going, like, if your family member got sick and they go into the hospital, you're not going to get out like it's too bad.
Nope. I think the best you can do is a video visit. They can see on video. So yeah, there's serious consequences to that, and we get these people who are on probation who get a chance, right, to successfully complete probation in lieu of going to prison, right, and changing their ways from DUIs, and we'll go to their house, and some of the components of the DUI court are to obviously have no alcohol, right?
Right.
But you also have to have it's called a BID, the breath interlock device on your car. So you have to blow in the device. And then we also, if you have a car,
He pulls people over with that. Like he's laughing because
Well,
he knows.
And if you blow outside, your car won't start.
and so some of those
Your
bids
friend
have
blows in there and gets
They have
the car.
cameras on them.
exactly. I was about to say that.
Yep.
So they have
If you interfere with it, you're in trouble.
They have cameras on them, and guess who that camera goes back to? Us and the DUI sentencing judge, right? So we get that, and then
why your mom's
if you have a
putting on this
car that doesn't have a bid, we put a club on it. We
We
have
put a club on
we
it.
do.
We'll
we
tell-
have a stack.
They'll tell
of
you and take you to jail for
They'll tell
violating
them
your
we'll-
interlock device.
Exactly. So we've seen crazy things with the interlock devices where people have been, they got their kid blowing into it, or they'll try an air compressor and blow into it. It's crazy. And if you do that, have a nice time, go to jail, right? And we put clubs on cars all the time. We have arrested people for coming to our office in a car that is not registered
Under the
to
influence.
them under the influence in DUI court. I mean, he talks about arresting people on the streets for having DUI. We've arrested people in our office they come to the probation office under the control of controlled substances or alcohol. It's crazy. and it happens a lot more than you would think. And people are given a chance and they neglect this chance, right? Every time you start a car and drive, you're taking a chance. It's a calculated risk, like you said. And obviously, if you're not impaired, and you're not distracted, you're probably going to be okay. But the thing is, I trust myself driving. I don't trust the ones around me because you don't know what they are doing, right? And I was going to say, he was talking about reaction times, right? In our academies, I distinctly remember up in the Reno EVOC track where I went. In Reno, they have a stoplight thing, and you're driving down, and they start you at 25 miles an hour, right? And the light goes red, and okay, I stop. You get up going fast, they'll put you at 65, 70 miles an hour, and that light will change, and you just boom right through it because you can't stop, you can't react to it, right? And we're cops who are trained and know this light's going to change, and we still blow it, right? So you just can't take chances like that going ridiculously fast, right? 100 plus miles an hour. Oh my goodness.
Can I show something with this action reaction real quick?
Sure.
Volunteer?
Absolutely.
I gotta stand up.
He's gonna throw a ball at me or something.
No.
Okay.
So you left-handed or right-handed?
Well, let's
I'm
get this.
right-handed.
Come towards me.
Oh, okay.
No, come towards me.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So fingers like this.
Okay.
Okay. So this is action reaction, right?
So let me ask you one thing too before we start.
Can I keep it?
So if I catch it, do I keep it? Right.
So here's the deal. I can make that commitment absolutely because you won't be able to action versus reaction, right?
Okay.
So let me explain this first of all,
Yeah,
right?
done,
So you can't see how his fingers. He's already cheating. His fingers already got close, right?
Okay.
So the point being is
It's
that
a small bill.
you can't squeeze and try and grab this bill until you see me let go of
Okay.
it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My
So-
hands are already
Right.
ready.
He can't take action until he reacts to me letting go of the bill, right? So when you're driving, you have all of these things going on in front of you. So right now he's focused, he's committed to watching, right? But if I ask him, "What's your name, Sean? What's your last name?"
Right. Should I make him
forgot.
smile?
Right?
Like, talk to
See,
him
he
about
doesn't
the
want to talk.
Talk to us about the bulls or
But
something.
if I tell him, right? See, because action beats reaction.
Because it takes that amount of time.
That
You know,
1.5 seconds. Remember, I talked about 3/4 of a second to react, 3/4 of a second to process, 3/4 of a second to squeeze his fingers. The bill has already passed. So again, if we talk mathematics, the size of the bill, he'll never be able to grab it if I'm giving him the proper guidance and instructions.
Of course.
If I let him stare at this, go ahead and watch. Right, I want you to watch it carefully. Right.
Well, I still can't do it.
But some people with really good reaction
Can't
time
do it.
can maybe grab it, but they're so focused. And I say, you know what? If you drove that focused, imagine how safe of a driver you'd be. But we mess with the radio.
Right.
We mess with our phone.
Right.
We are talking on our Bluetooth.
Talked about distractive driving.
Right.
But
We're
One
doing-
more thing I wanted to add
Yeah.
about that too is with reaction time is semi trucks.
Oh yeah.
Remember how we talked?
Yeah.
Man.
You can almost quadruple that time because
Yeah.
the weight of the truck, they don't have that stopping time.
No, they
You
can't
think you're
stop
going
on
to
a
pull
dime.
and then stop in front of them right away with a truck that's fully
Yeah.
loaded with 45,000 pounds, which is probably a light load.
Yeah.
They can't stop. So that's
Yeah.
another thing about reaction time is you really have to watch what you're doing. Even impairment makes it even worse because
Absolutely.
now you're totally off. Now you can almost double or triple that time because you're not thinking clearly, and your reaction time is always slower when you're under the influence.
And
So-
those are the tricks that I call them tricks, but they're just actual questions that we will ask a driver to check impairment. A lot of individuals have asked me, friends and just people in passing when they find out what I do. Why do you guys ask so many questions when you're on a traffic stop? Well, a lot of times the question, how you answer the question really doesn't mean much to me. I'm trying to get you. Probably shouldn't give away too many of my secrets, but I want you to talk, right? The
Right,
more
of
you
course.
talk, the more observations I can make as to whether you're impaired or not. I don't know you. I've probably never met you before. I don't know what your tendencies are. I'm looking for impairment.
But that also can benefit you.
Right.
Right.
Because if you're answering the right questions, he doesn't smell the alcohol,
Right.
and he needs to just get
You're on your way.
those things out of the way because he's not going to waste his time with you. If you're good to go, if you're going to get a citation or whatever, he's done with you, and then he can move on and get the real
Yeah.
violator that's out there potentially killing somebody off the road.
And again, yeah, and we're looking at the 3 E's of law enforcement, right? So engineering, enforcement, and education, right? So if I can educate you with a warning, mission accomplished. Some people can't be educated with a warning. They want to argue. Well, then I have to take enforcement. You're dictating that, though. Your behavior is dictating that. Those two things lead to the engineering. If we're writing excessive speeding tickets in a certain corridor, that might lead to more traffic control devices in that corridor by the city engineers or the county engineers or the state engineers when they look at the ticket data, right? Where impaired drivers are being arrested at. Maybe we need to do more controlled enforcement in those areas, right? The tourist corridor, right? I call it the strip corridor right there on the 15, right? From Spaghetti Bowl down to Silverado Ranch, right? All the people that are coming and going to, everybody pre-games nowadays because it's expensive to drink on the strip, right? So all the locals take a couple of shots maybe before headed out, right? So we catch them coming into town, we catch them leaving. I mean, I can go on and on, but
You know, it's funny
I mean-
is that the show that I watch on the weekends with the police officers, right? All the time, people are getting pulled over, and it's just a simple look. I just wanted to tell you not to do this. Your tail light is out. The light isn't working. This, that, and the other thing. And the people come up and they're like, and they're like, okay, listen, just do me a favor. Now that you're being silly, now step out of the car. And then they step out of the car, and then they start going crazy. And it's like, okay, listen, by the way, you just talked yourself into my beautiful handcuffs, and now you can go to jail.
And for what? And
For what? For nothing.
You know what I mean? Like he said it best before, as long as you comply and just do what's said to be done at that time and on that stop, there's a place for those questions or whatever. And most of our troopers will answer those questions once they're done with their job, and they'll help you along the way with that. But there's a time and place. That's why we have court. But on the side of the road, it's very dangerous just to have you out there in the first place. And when we have you out there getting tested or whatever, we're putting our lives in danger as well as the person that we're with. So we don't want to spend any more time on that side of the roadway than we have to. So like I said, if it's something that's, you're able to answer the questions and you haven't really done anything wrong, and if you deserve a ticket or they want to give you a verbal warning or something, good, you're gone. His job is to protect our community and make sure that these impaired drivers get off the road. You know what I mean? And before they kill somebody or seriously injure somebody. Absolutely.
And this year we're targeting, the slow down, move over law, right? So we need that lane to work in, right? So if people think about where they work, whether they work indoors in an office, whether they work in the tourist environment and they're on a stage, or whether they work outside, construction work, or whatever, wherever they work, there's a safety zone for almost all of us at our place of employment. We're on the highway. When I stop somebody, most people don't stop in a safe place. They're just not familiar. They probably haven't been stopped before. The ones that have aren't real cooperative, and they'll put their car right on the fog line, or they'll put their car in a dangerous situation. All I have to protect myself is my patrol car, and so I'll angle it, or I'll park it a little off center so that I have a little room to work around the car in front of me. And then I get motorists coming by me at 75, 80 miles an hour and not slowing down and or moving over, which in this state is an arrestable offense. So if I'm out with a driver who's been speeding, which is an infraction punishable by a fine and a ticket, and I have somebody that comes by me and doesn't slow down or move over, a lot of times, have a nice day, slow down, here's your warning, and I'm going after them, and they're going to jail. Because I'm going to make a point that if you're going to endanger my life intentionally by not slowing down and moving over, as the law states, when I'm in my office on the side of the highway, I'm going to make you pay for that, right? By having you go in front of a judge and explain yourself. It's on camera. It's on my video dash cam. Of you not slowing down and moving over, which is a clear violation. I've had cars brush by me, literally mere inches from my arm. I've been tapped by cars trying to navigate their way through a collision scene because they don't want to stop and get caught in traffic, and they've got something to do that's more important than our safety. And based off of what happened a little over a year ago with two of our troopers, Sergeant Abate and Trooper Felix, I will not tolerate that. Neither will my guys on Graveyard. It's not going to happen. If we have to take action for that specific violation, we're going to. Because now it's the state's mantra, so to speak, for this year is to challenge us to go out there and educate and hold people accountable for that violation. We're already shorthanded. We can't afford to lose troopers. I don't want empty chairs at dinner tables of my trooper families. Absolutely not. I don't want to make those notifications. I want no part of that. Not just for Highway Patrol, PMP, Metro, Northtown, Henderson Police Department. Every one of these guys endangers, puts themselves at risk when they perform traffic stops or conduct pedestrian investigations, or you guys do field contacts out on the road, and you're dealing with somebody on the side of the road. Give us that space, please.
Yeah, let me
off
add
my
on
pedestal.
too with that too. Since this is an educational moment, and everybody that's listening out there, when a trooper or officer's pulling you over, always pull over to the far right lane. And a lot of people, you know, they'll try to go on the left where those shoulders are not big enough, like you was talking
narrow.
about. They're a lot more narrow. Always move off to the right when you're getting pulled over, if you can do so. Sometimes we have some big shoulders on the left, and we don't mind if it's like three car length. You know what I mean? That's fine. But the majority of the time, when you get stopped, always pull all the way to the right. Also, it doesn't matter if it's police, it's a tow truck, or our FSP, our freeway safety patrol guys are out there all the time. You'll see anybody, even with flashing yellow lights, red or blue lights. If you see that up ahead, make sure you get in those next lanes over if you can do so safely. We want you to leave those lanes open so we don't lose troopers. I think I told you this a while back, Neil, when I was in my 20s. I was a deputy sheriff, but I belong to the California Highway Patrol Association. So they used to send me magazines every month. And there would be an officer's picture on the front cover of every magazine. And it was an officer that lost his life. The majority of officers and troopers throughout this country, deaths are caused by motorists striking them. It's not gunfire. I mean, gunfire has risen since COVID. We've had a lot more issues with people shooting at cops or becoming problems. But our number one thing across the nation is people not moving over into the farther lane where the actual traffic stop, and they're actually striking these officers on the job. And we want to prevent that. That's one of the biggest things. Another thing I want to add too is for the public out there when you're driving, always wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
This is going to be another thing that I'm going to hit other than that in distracted driving this year is seatbelt. Because I don't know how many fatals that we've had so far this year that these people would be alive today just because they weren't wearing their seatbelt. Because once they lost control of that vehicle and it starts to roll over, they get ejected and they end up losing their life over that. So I want to really start with that campaign with seatbelts this year too.
And they can slow down. If they
Well,
can't
that's
get-
the
if
number
they
one thing.
can't-
So
if
slowing
they
down is a
can't
big
get
start.
Can't get over. Slow down.
Absolutely.
and watch for somebody on the side of the road and try to get over as much as you can in the lane.
And let me give you a statistic to go with that slow down, right? A lot of people ask, well, why is school zones 20 miles an hour, right? Why is it so slow? Well, there's a reason, okay? Because there's the 20-40 rule, right? At 20 miles an hour, if you hit a pedestrian with your car, they have a 95% chance of survival, okay? If you hit them at 40, they have a 95% chance of death. Just that 20 mile an hour swing. All right. If you figure you're doubling that speed going from 20 to 40. So when you're in a hurry and you're cruising through that school zone and you want to slow down or you think all the kids are gone, we know kids are just, you can't predict what they're going to do. You have to expect the unexpected with kids in a school zone. And I just say, whenever you're around pedestrians in general, crosswalks, after school, when buses are being let out and kids are running across streets because they want to get home quick, right? It's not worth it. You go in front of a judge after killing a kid and you're reckless at twice the speed limit, 40's twice the speed limit, willful, wanton disregard for public safety, that's reckless, right? You're going to have to explain yourself. You committed a crime, a pretty serious, heinous crime if that child's died. And not to mention, no amount of jail time is going to fix what you have to live with.
Right, of course.
Right? And it's avoidable. It's completely avoidable. Collisions are completely avoidable. They're not accidents, right? It's something that could have been prevented, if you had simply just followed the law of the land. Pay attention while you're driving, slow down, be safe, seatbelts, vision ahead, downrange, not just right off the hood of your car, but think several hundred feet down the road. You need to be looking and being prepared for cars to change lanes, kids to run out in front of your car.
Right.
This is why he's an inspiration for all the officers.
Absolutely.
Let me ask something, 'cause I think we have a picture here. I don't know which one it is, but my question is how fast is a Mustang? What I want to say is that's really, really important that is very special about this picture. Okay, number one, I think it's the most fantastic picture. You know what I'm saying? Because it shows the different side of you, and again, not saying where you live or what it is that you do, but like, you know, this is one of the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But you guys did this because someone reached out, and it was for a little kid.
Absolutely.
You
I
know
could
what
talk
I'm
a little bit
saying?
about that, you know.
And so Johnny was asked to go to a certain place, and this certain place had a road where he was able to take a picture of a Mustang horse and a Mustang car. And not only there were other pictures that Johnny won't let me show of him on a tractor and stuff like this, but you know what I mean? Like, but it was very special, and it's one of the wonderful things that people don't see from the Nevada State Police, because it's 100% behind the scenes. But this changed somebody's life by you guys doing what you're doing. And so I'd like to get a reaction from both of you as to what something like this, and then things like this that you guys do on a daily basis by going to the schools and reading to the kids and doing all these type of things, it really does make a difference.
I want to let Hacham tell the story of the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, I got contacted by an NYPD officer, and there's a we won't name the child, but he was very sick. He has a rare cancer, and they from New York he got transferred to Massachusetts for a specialized cancer care or whatever. So this officer reached out to me and knew that maybe, hey, we could send a wonderful message, you know, from Nevada, because he really likes, you know, the police and everything like that. And I said, absolutely, we can do that. And I was talking with Chris at the time. I said, hey, let's do something with the horse for this kid. Let's do something that's spectacular, because, you know, small kids, they love horses and all this stuff. I happen to have the Mustang, so I thought it was kind of cool, because we ended up. Nothing was scripted. We just had Johnny start running the camera, and we were telling him about all the well wishes and told him a little bit. This is Patton. This is a real Nevada Mustang. It's wild, and it was rescued by yours truly, Chris, because you can you know, when they round up Mustangs from the BLM or whatever, the true wild horses, he's a true Mustang. And I thought, how cool is this? A Mustang versus Mustang, you know what I mean, for a video. And then when we got done doing this thing for the child up in Massachusetts, where he was not from there, but he was going to the cancer clinic there, I said, we were talking about, hey, we need to do a rural video, because people that live in the rural areas, we're always looking for state troopers to live in those areas, or the parole and probation. You know, we have parole and probation officers in rural areas also. So we're still working on this. As a few months ago, we have everything written out. We're ready to do this video, but we did one off the cuff, which turned out pretty good, actually. I mean, we could actually probably show the video if we could find it, but we want to kind of refine it a little bit. But we went out to Chris's ranch, had him throwing hay out to the horses, and talking about, hey, if you live in the rural areas, contact NevadaStatePolice.com. If you always wanted to be a trooper, you'll get to still live in your area, whether you're like an Ely or Winnemucca, small rural areas. We're looking for troopers. So this is one of the things that we got going on, is we're going to make this rural NHP and PMP recruiting video, and it's still in the makes. But it started off with a good cause, because we really wanted to uplift this kid that's going through cancer, and that's what we do for our community. I mean, we're out there, and when this guy called me, I said, we're in. We're going to do it. And we thought about the horse and the Mustang, and it happened to be a real Mustang, and we're like, how cool is that, from Nevada? So we kind of incorporated it into the video. So I'll let Chris take over from there.
It's a cool idea, and like, yes, this is my house. My horses are. My wife and I have 4 horses. We live obviously outside Las Vegas, as you can tell.
Right.
But it kind of really tells you the story of state police, right? I work in downtown Las Vegas, but I can live,
You live here.
in a rural area, right?
a beautiful
and I
thing.
still drive a take-home car.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The same with these guys. It's take-home cars.
You don't have to pay for gas.
Don't
to get
gotta
to and
pay
from
for
work.
gas, right? It
Your own
takes me,
time.
It takes me like a half hour to get here. We have people who live in Logandale and Mawapa. We have people who in the past have lived in Sandy Valley, Pahrump, right? These areas of Nevada, which that's more Clark County, right? But you start talking about the rurals. We have officers in Ely and Elko, Winnemucca, Fallon. I think we have a Lovelock office too, I think. And you can live there, work there, get a take-home car, have all the benefits of state police, right? You can live the lifestyle you want, right? I'll admit, when I got married, I wasn't a horse person, okay? But I've been turned into one.
He's totally horse.
That's right. I grew up in this city, but my wife had horses, right? And so now I have tractors and property, right? And horses that I take care of. So that's it's so cool to be able to do that, right? I never thought I wanted to live in a rural area, but now that I do, it's fantastic, right? I was telling Sergeant Donaldson now, earlier, I'm not worried about my door being locked, right? I do, but if I forget, I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool, right? Like, it's not a huge concern.
He can see people coming and going from miles away.
Exactly, right? I know one's
And he
gonna.
knows his neighbors. He knows his
Yep.
community. This is a great thing about working in the state of Nevada. We have rural openings all over the state for PMP and for Highway Patrol. So pick your city. You live in one of these rural communities and you want to make it safer, make it better, right? That's a direct way to do that. You get hired by Nevada Department of Public Safety. You get to pick the branch you go into. Do some ride-alongs, try them out first to see which one you like. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever to be able to live and work in your community. Talk about local community-oriented policing. You get to do that. You get to help out your local school, right? Go and talk to the youth. You get to see and have a direct correlation with helping those youth grow into responsible adults, right? You get to see the fruit of your labor. At night when I'm working the road, my guys, we have to cover the rules because there isn't any graveyard trooper working in Pahrump, Mesquite, Indian Springs, Laughlin, Prim. That's just the Clark County area. But that goes across the entire state because we're shorthanded. We need help. So if you want to help your community, this is a great way to do it, is to step up and get involved.
Here's the thing. Before we got on the air today, okay, Trooper Hagstrom showed me a video of a certain TV station up in Reno that was talking about the Nevada State Police in a positive way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the station was talking about the fact that right now there's over 150 available positions. And so what people have to sort of understand is that it's not always about the money, that there are other places to make more money, but the flexibility that the Nevada State Police offers as you being able to be with one agency, right? And so we talked just a little bit about the retirement and how you guys have to pay into retirement and all these type of things. There's a lot of logistical things that you have to go through, but to be able to work for the Nevada State Police and be able to live on a farm or live in the city or live in Reno and live on the lake, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Like these are things that the Nevada State Police offers. All you need to do is apply, pass the tests, written evaluation, polygraph, this, that, and the other thing, right? Then go to the academy, then do the field training, and then after field training, you're on your own. And then after a few years of being on your own, then it's like, okay, what do you want to do now? You know what I mean? Do you have the passion for DUI, right? Do you have the passion to go and help people that are on parole and probation? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to go to the academy and teach people? I mean, like all these things. We had the fire marshals on. We had the fire marshal dog on.
Yeah.
And you know what I learned? I got to bring this up quickly because I didn't know this about the bomb dog.
Mm-hmm.
I learned
Yeah.
something about the bomb dog when we had the. And by the way, thank you, gentlemen, for wearing your things.
Yeah, Capitol
wi-
Police.
wi- wi-
What's that to?
Yeah.
We had K9 Sawyer. That's
so
what-
so I
okay.
want to say this very quickly is that so when the Metro officer was here for the event
Mm-hmm.
when we had it for the fallen officer, and his dog does 4 different drugs, right? It doesn't do marijuana anymore,
Right.
Yep.
But one of the things that I found most interesting is that he says that his dog is trained that when they go and they find something and the dog sits down or
Yeah.
alerts, right?
Yep.
He gives the dog the treat immediately, the little ball, right? But he said the bomb dog is not allowed to touch anything, and the bomb dog doesn't get the reward until after he finds something. So he'll find it,
Mm-hmm.
and then he has to return to the handler
Yep. And they have to confirm it before they can get
before
rewarded.
he can get the. And so, like,
And a lot of times they'll lay down or they'll just sit and
Yeah.
stare
How they alert.
because they can't
They can't
they
touch
can't
it.
have an aggressive alert because guess what could
Just
happen if
tampering
it's
with
really
evidence, you might set off
well,
a
and
bomb.
yeah, you could have some serious
Yep.
indications on that. yeah.
and so the K9 is again another wonderful thing that's part of the Nevada State Police. We don't have a Mustang division,
Not yet.
but
Not yet.
Not yet.
But, does Nevada State Police have a horse division?
No, we don't. But when you're talking
tell
about
me
how
about the-
great it is to be on this department, it's wonderful because once you get on, and I'll give you another instance afterwards on this, but you got so many different divisions
Yes.
that you can go to. Let's say that you start out with Highway Patrol. I'm going to just use Highway Patrol for an example here. You hit 1041, which is on work from your driveway. And when you're driving home and when you get off work, you hit off the radio in your driveway, right? And that car is your office. That's your, nobody else uses that car like we talked about before. In other big departments, you have to move your stuff in. And I always told you, hey, get there like an hour early because you want to get the good cars because some of the other ones, some people are
Or they're
messy
seniority
and they,
based.
yeah.
You're the new guy. You don't
yeah.
get the new car. You get the oldest car in
Yeah.
the fleet.
And
for
then you
the
got to
first 5
unload
years.
everything on there. You got to put like a stinger, like,
Yep.
stop sticks, or you got to unload, put your shotguns or all this other stuff. You got to redo everything. And it takes time. And that's not even before briefing. And you lose like an hour or two on these big agencies coming and going to
Travel
work
time.
and using your own gas, everything where it's all paid for the department. But what's good about with NHP, let's say that you do NHP for 3 or 4 years and you say, hey, I want to change because there's a few openings that I'm looking at, maybe parole and probation, or maybe they have another opening in state fire marshal or investigator. I always wanted to be an investigator, so I wanted to be when those things come available and you apply, if they have what do you want to say, positions in those certain departments, you get those positions. And another thing I want to go back to, let's say you get tired of Vegas and you want to work in Reno or Tahoe with beautiful right by the lake, or you want to go somewhere like, let's say you had family in
Horse Ranch and-
Jackpot, Nevada or something.
Rural Vegas. I mean, come on.
So
this guy's got a good
but you
gig
can
right
put a
here.
transfer in. If there's an opening, you can go anywhere in the state and work. And where else could you do that for a job? This
Yeah.
is what's so great about Nevada State Police. And not only that, we're a smaller agency, even though we're statewide, but everybody knows everybody. And you have good mentors
Yeah.
like this, sergeants. If you need to speak with somebody or even upper supervisors that you need help or something, they're there to help you. So that's one of the great benefits of being with the Nevada State Police.
Yeah,
So-
and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no age requirement.
Nope. We
There's
talked
no
about that
age
last
limit,
one.
did you? I started
When you're done, you want to be a recruiter?
when I started in law enforcement. I started later on in life. I started at 34, and then when I came down here to Nevada, I was 50 something, right? And they welcomed me with open arms. I couldn't be happier.
But you ain't the
the
oldest.
job. I'm not.
No, I'm talking the guy in my academy class.
Yeah.
We talked about last segment.
65 or something, right?
64 years old.
See, and that's
And
impressive
he,
to
and
me.
he passed it, and he was in great health,
Yeah.
great shape, and he always wanted to be a trooper, and he did.
And
it,
the physical
you know?
fitness test, a lot of people worry about that. It's the one test we give you the answers to.
Yeah.
You can't fail it because you can practice before you take it.
Absolutely. And people
So
will
go
help
to the
you do
site.
it.
Yeah, go to the site. Our recruiters will help you. You should be able to pass that physical fitness test at home before you even come to take it at our academy, right, as an entry. And we give you a little cushion at the entry. And while you're in the academy, you have to pass it at the standard, at the fitness level for Nevada State post. But those answers are on the website. You can't say, I didn't know. You got to jump a certain number of inches for your vertical clearance. You got to run a relay. You got to do a sprint and a long distance run, sit-ups, push-ups. Basic fitness. You practice for a month at the gym, I would venture 95% of the people that practice
We'll pass it.
will pass it.
Absolutely.
And the other 5%, they just need a little bit extra, and we give them that. They're going to pass at the entry because you give them a little cushion over the fitness level. But I still am shocked because I go help with that test. People come and fail it. How do you fail a test you know the answers
but
to?
let me get this out.
Yeah,
Even if you don't, even if you fail it,
come back.
don't give up.
Right.
Because you know what? Not everybody gets the job firsthand, and that's with everywhere you go. I mean, and there's a lot of people could tell you that. They'll probably, you know, when it's hard to get in law enforcement back in the day, some people will go 3 or 4 times before they got hired.
Yeah.
So if this is something you've always wanted to do and you fail and you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to be a cop. No. If you want something bad enough, you're going to work hard enough to get that and achieve the goal that you want. And you might even set extra goals ahead once you're in the academy.
And it's designed to see how hard are you committed to doing or seeing something through. Because when I go to try and track down somebody that's run from the police, am I going to give up the first time it gets tough? The first time I go door knocking?
Or even a fight.
And they've
You're gonna
moved?
give up?
Yeah. Or, you know, I have to fight with a guy on the side of the road. My cover's 5-10 minutes away. I need to last 5 to 10 minutes. I need to last longer than that. Am I going to just give up? Am I going to let them run away? Like, no, we want to see how committed people are because this job does not allow for the weak-minded. It's a job you might not come home from. And you have to face that when you go 1040, when you log in at day, night, whenever, all of us. You know, when I say goodbye to my wife and my family before I go to work, I've always done this in my career. It's goodbye. I want to make sure that I leave them. It's tough because, you know, I have friends that didn't get to come home. You know, and
Matter
they
of
went
fact,
to
we're
work.
wearing a shroud, not to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, please.
Because we had an officer from North Las Vegas, where his funeral was this week, that laid down his life for our community.
Absolutely.
That was shot. And Jason Roscoe with the North Las Vegas Police Department. And our thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family, and the department during this rough time. And one thing that he brings up about his family, it's tough to say this, you know, on camera, because, you know, we have loved ones at home too, but I want to go back a little bit about, because I wanted to touch base what he was talking about earlier. At nighttime, it gave him stuff like that. Nevada State Police gives us the best training. I'll tell you what, they don't just throw you in a car and say go out there. We are constantly training. Every year we have yearly training, and we always update our training, whether it's in firearms or everything all year long. But through the academy, we have some of the best training for these scenarios, whether it's night, where to position your lights, how to use your flashlight, your weapon, everything at the best time for you in every situation, so that you can come home every night, you know. So we don't want to paint in a bad position, because not every person we deal with are bad guys, you know what I mean? But, you know, we got those 2%ers that want to fight or out there. But we always have that element, you never know. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be prepared.
And
You
I
have to
was
be
just going to say,
prepared.
so Sergeant
Yeah.
Clifton came here with his little baby and his wife, and you know what I mean? We just had him. And, you know, it's like, I love that personal connection. You know what I mean? And for you, this is probably the only time that I saw you ever get, you know, like sort of
Stop
not-
and get emotional.
right, because the thing is that you know, you like, at the end of the day, you're talking about someone that you love and your family, and you're like, listen, you know, like, I do a job that, you know what I mean, like some I was going to say a bad word, but, you know, some person, you know what I mean, who isn't following the right way to do things can take my life,
Or is impaired or altered. And,
right?
and I, you know, I don't know the good sergeant here very well, because I'm still new to Vegas, but I know enough about him that he and I both kind of come from the same cloth, in that we care passionately about our people.
Yeah.
We want to make sure our people get home safely at the end of the shift. When I clock in at night and I see my squad, right, and they know this, right, my job is to make sure they go home safe every night. right? To make sure that if I see something that they could do a little bit better or a little bit safer, I need to provide them that ongoing training. That's my job, right? Is to go out there and make sure they're operating within the rules that, we play hide and seek. We play adult hide and seek. We have to follow the rules. We don't get to cheat. Criminals get to cheat.
Criminals.
They get to bend the rules,
Yeah. 100%.
right? We have to play by a certain set of rules. And my job is to make sure that my guys and gals are still doing that, right? And that if I see an opportunity to provide training, on the job training, or correct that behavior, or step in and maybe show them I don't want to say a trick, but a tool that I've been taught from my mentors over the years on how to do something a little bit better or a little bit safer. Passenger side approach versus a driver's side approach. Using the darkness of night to approach, right? One of my pet peeves is having an officer drive up to cover me with their headlights on behind me, like you just backlit me, right? So I'll have to train on it because a lot of people don't think about that when they come to work. They don't realize that their headlight, they just illuminate it. I'm standing off in the shadows waiting for my cover unit. I don't want to be backlit. I'm using the cover of darkness to conceal myself, right? Cover versus concealment. I can be standing out in wide open behind nothing for cover, but I can be in pitch black desert and driver has no idea. He sees the spotlight. He thinks I'm where the light is. If he's going to shoot, he's going to probably shoot at the light, right? So I don't want to be behind it. So that kind of ongoing training, that's our job to do that. And we love doing that. We wouldn't be doing the supervisor role if we didn't. And those tools.
Crazy to think about all these things.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
we go on and on. I mean,
but you have to. I mean, you know what I mean? There are lunatics in this world that just want to shoot you for no reason whatsoever.
And we, like you said, we provide the best training, right?
yeah, we do.
Unbelievable.
As supervisors, especially, right? I do a lot of midterm and final evaluations for our trainees, and I did one recently where the trainee, it was in our office, right? It's a safe space for us, our office. We have a metal detector. People go through it, right? I'm not too worried about someone having something concealed because generally we know, right? We're not perfect, right? But this trainee put someone in handcuffs. And as an evaluator, I'm not necessarily there to be like, do this, 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 this. I'm watching you, seeing what you're doing, right? They put him in handcuffs and they say, okay, let's go. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. And they're just walking to the car. What did they miss? What? Handcuffs,
Searches and
search, instant to arrest. And yeah, they've already gone through the metal detector, but wait a second. I was this close to failing that trainee because they didn't search the person they arrested, right? And it just clicked. They're like, oh, hold on, I need to search you.
Well,
I was like, man, that you were so close. And we don't want to fail people, but we also want the highest standard.
You have to have the best.
well, and if we don't correct that,
Yeah.
that
That's
simple
what somebody
move could
gets killed
cost
or-
an officer their life down the road. We had an incident, and I got to give a shout out to one of my troopers. Well, he's not on my squad, but Trooper Valencia. I was observing him, covering him. He was doing a search incident to arrest on an individual for possession of drugs. And I was impressed by his level of search. And he located, sewn in the jacket inseam, a glass pipe and a hypodermic needle on the left sleeve, the right sleeve, methamphetamine, and another hypodermic needle, uncapped. So people who have made bad decisions in life and are what some people would call criminals or bad people, right? I like to say there aren't any bad people. There's people that make bad decisions, right? We all want to believe the good in people, right? But sometimes people do turn bad, and they are out there. But this is a guy that he asked, you got anything concealed? Anything I'm going to find? And I even threw in there, man, if you don't tell him and you get to jail, they're going to find it. That's their job. And then it's a felony, right? For bringing in, it's an additional charge. Do you really want to go down that road? Oh, I got nothing, man. I haven't used, I'm clean for, I don't remember how many years he said he was clean. But you could see it in his face, right? I'm a drug recognition expert, have been since 2009. I could see he was tweaking, right? I could see it in his pupils. I could see it in, I could just see it. Vein on the side of his head popping out, right? He's amped. Sure enough, and Trooper Valencia had to cut it out, right, to get it out safely, take his time. And that level of search comes with experience, okay? And Trooper Valencia, through his training experience, knew I need to take this search very slow, very detailed, and take my time. There's no rush, right? We're in a safe area, pitch dark. Yes, we want to get this processed and get off the side of the road, but we have to slow down sometimes. And that comes through training, right? And that's something that he learned along the way. And now he was, you know, and he was able to actually teach other officer there that, look, you can't make assumptions that when they tell you they're not armed, when they tell you they're not carrying any contraband, that they're telling the truth. That's probably one of the worst things about being a cop is my skepticism, my level of skepticism is through the roof now. It's
We've
what I
dealt
do.
with it forever.
Yeah, you get lied to all
I
the
just
time.
want to tell you something very interesting. We had the sergeant on here from Capitol Police. No, a dignitary.
Dignitary
protection.
Dick
protection.
Pro, yeah.
Okay. And let me tell you something. This guy was really cool because he sat where you sat, and we would tell little jokes, and he would laugh, and you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
But like, you knew that he was looking like this to say,
Scanning.
who's behind the door, who's
Uh-huh.
over here, who's coming in here. You know what I mean? And so like.
Can always pick up
and
cops in the
so
room
It was very,
with their back to the wall.
it was very cool, and I kept pointing it out when we kept talking. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because I kept saying it. I kept saying, you know, like, you know, and he would laugh and then he would just go like this, like, you know what I mean? Because he knew that,
Constantly scanning, constantly assessing people, you
and
know.
this is what you guys have to do. You know what I mean?
And it's off duty too. Like you
Absolutely.
can't go to the store with your spouse and not, especially I can only imagine as PMP because I worked, you know, in a smaller town in Washington before doing this, and I'd run into people that I'd arrested when I'm out with my kids, right? And I'm not in uniform. I don't want to be recognized. I don't want to interact with that individual. My kids are with me. My wife is with me. We're eating, whatever the case may be, right? And it just changes.
Whole perspective on things.
It does.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
This is
You
why
have to separate that because then you're
I
not.
don't go anywhere.
Well, you know what?
I work and then I go home and then and then the door's
But I'll
closed.
tell you what, Neil,
Yeah.
you'll always know the cops because when we go like the restaurants,
Uh-huh.
my wife always knows that I
That's
take
my
the seat with my back against where I can observe everybody that comes in and out. You know, what I
And
mean?
you'll
I have that straight view,
You'll find.
so I don't get, you know.
I went out with my
Right.
wife and my sons the other night to eat, and I have to remind myself, stop. You know, you're off duty. Nobody knows. You're in a city of several million people. Just relax. But every time somebody walks in the door, you just, you know, it's natural.
You know.
Right? You're watching people's hands. You're watching what people do. You'll see people yelling at the manager in the back, and you're just like, okay, how's this going to play out, right? Is this going to be one of those shootings in a restaurant or shootings at the mall or whatever because somebody loses their...
We were sitting outside the store yesterday, and across the street, you know, in the driveway to the Pep Boys, there were three guys, and they were sitting there, and you know they start pushing each other or whatever, and then one guy just socks the one guy, right, and then the other guy socks the other guy, and then they start doing, and then they start doing the chest. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And you're like, you know, you just don't know. I mean, like, you know, all of a sudden, like, somebody pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
and now...
and so, like, I can only imagine from, you know, like, that's what you guys do every day. You know what I mean? Like, you have to look at always the best, but unfortunately, you see the worst.
And we're not getting called to, hey, Johnny's getting his Eagle Scout today. You understand what I'm getting
Right?
at?
No.
I
We
mean,
don't
we're
get
going
these
there for
kind of interactions
yeah, we're
all the
we're
time.
we're
We
going
like
for
this.
a reason, and we have to be in the top of our game. Either somebody gets hurt, they get hurt, or us. So that's why we always have to be top level performers. You know what I mean? And we can't have a half day. If I tell somebody if they're sick or they're not feeling it, just stay at home.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be a burden yourself or somebody
me.
else out here, and we can't risk that. You know what I mean? So that's how we take care of our own. Make sure everybody's good to go. And sometimes we'll have briefings, sometimes we don't have briefings, but we want to educate and see what's up with our troops before they actually hit the road out there.
And I was having this conversation with one of my employees yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
She went to and she's a petite woman, maybe about 5 foot tall, probably 110 pounds, right? Not some super buff Hagstrom looking person over there, right?
Oh,
But
overweight.
point
Stop.
but point being is that, you know, she was in a apartment complex known for its reputation, shall we say. And she said,
Various activities.
Sure, you said it. So she says, you know, I parked my car, and of course it's the apartment in the back. And you have to walk by the people standing on this sidewalk who you're just wondering what they're looking at. They're staring at you the whole time, watching you walk by. Just say, hello, right? But in that instance, she's not looking at their eyes. She's looking at their waistbands, looking at their hands, seeing what they're doing, what are they holding, what's around them, right? And she has to be aware all of the time, not just because she's a small person, but just because you're a cop. You look like a cop, right? And this is not how I go out and do home contact. So I got a vest on top, right, with my camera, my taser, everything. I look like a cop, and there's a time and a place for us to not look like that. That's not when we're doing our home contacts. That's when I'm taking someone to the airport going on a flight, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's that you gotta be on your game all the time. If you're sick and you're on your game and you're walking through this not so great apartment complex, are you paying attention to all that? Or are you sitting there wiping your nose, going, "Oh, I feel so bad today"?
Yeah.
It's
You go home mentally tired at the end of your shift. You don't go home physically tired. Like even if the night I got into a use of force with this gentleman that wanted to resist arrest, I didn't go home physically tired that night. I went home mentally like, okay, did I teach the officer that I was with everything I could have to prevent that from happening again? Or that if it happens again, did I prepare him enough so that he goes home safely, that he's able to apprehend that subject in a safe manner and not get harmed? Like, my mind's firing like that, right? You go home, how many times you go home and you're not able to fall asleep? Like,
Yeah.
I need to fall asleep in the daytime in order to be ready to work the next night. And you just sit there and your mind will run and replay incidents. It's just like our military guys that deploy, right?
It never shuts off.
It doesn't. And,
I can
and
never sleep.
we deploy in our own neighborhood, in our own city for our career, right? We don't get to come home and fly to a different location and then go off duty, right? We're here, and God bless our military personnel for the work they do abroad and even here locally with the National Guard and stuff like that. But law enforcement has my utmost respect, all levels, because prior to this job, I had no idea what they go through, not just on duty, but off duty, their career, when they retire. You can't, some guys might be able to do this, but I have not found a way successfully to turn that off. It's hard. I can kind of muffle it.
It's
my wife can see through
it's
it.
ingrained
My
in
boys
you.
can see through it. Yeah,
ingrained in you,
and
so.
they'll slap me around
It
a little bit
changes
to go, verbally to go, hey, you're not here, right? I go, yeah, man, I was thinking about that call the other night, right? And my wife pointed out something, and I don't know if your wife says this too. She saw something. She goes, it was a post or somebody said, when your significant other works in law enforcement and sends you an I love you text in the middle of their shift, it's probably because they just went through something kind of dangerous. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of, I didn't even think about that. But I do. I will send those little messages every once in a while, like just to let her know I was thinking about it, because she had, one of those incidents where it was like, it's just a call to make you recognize, what do I value in life? Who do I value in life? And why do I do this job? It's for my loved ones. It's for others' loved ones, to make sure they go home safe, to make sure they get where they're going safely. Not to go out and write tickets to everybody I can. There's a reason when I write a ticket. There's a reason when I take enforcement action. And it's generally because that individual is not recognizing how the danger they're putting their community in or themselves.
It's an educational moment.
It is.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. We're not out here to hammer and say, oh, I got to write so many tickets, and I don't get a toaster in the end,
There's
or
no such thing
or
as a
another
bonus.
vacation. You know what I mean? But there's an educational response, because I hate to say this. I was taught a long time ago that, yeah, you could beat somebody up or do something like that, but if you really wanted to hurt somebody, you hurt them in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
And sometimes, with tickets and stuff, I mean, you got to do those measures sometimes to change some attitudes or ways that people are doing. One thing I wanted to add on you were speaking on before is, it can be draining. I wish I would have changed some stuff when I was doing. I'm still full time now, but when I was active, because in 28 years, when I got home from work, it was more of a mental drain, and all I wanted to do was watch a little TV, eat, and go to bed, right? And I should have been working out the last 28 years, but there was no excuse, because you know what? Working out reduces stress.
Yeah. Cortisol.
And now, I'm in this job. I noticed that I didn't want to work out as much at the end. You know what I mean? But I tell you what, I forced myself, and I feel so much better. And I wish I would have. That's one of the things, if there's officers listening out there too, is get to the gym not only that, it makes you stronger, and but it reduces so much stress that we deal with on a daily basis. And I wish I would have just kept with it. You know what I mean? But you just get tired, and it's not from a physical drain. It's all mental.
No, yeah.
So one of the good things that I notice is once I work out and everything, I feel so much better. You know what I mean? Even when I don't want to work out, and I think a lot of people that do work out there too, when they don't feel as well and they go do it anyways, they feel better afterwards anyway. So it's kind of the same thing. But I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, no.
People like myself, you can see my stomach. We like to have ice.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
my stomach's getting bigger. My shirts are starting to fill out here. That's from working behind the desk a little bit more there, Neil. I don't know.
I
So-
don't know. I've seen that
Eat
desk.
too
You know what I'm
much.
saying? And the lady comes over and gives you candies all day long. You know?
Well, she's been late on that lately,
Yeah.
but I don't know. But yeah.
You know, I want to say too, Neil,
Tell
it's
me.
important to have, in addition to working out, a hobby, right?
Yeah.
Oh, how
Take for example, right? So
tractor.
tractors. I have tractors I work on too. That's 2019. I have a 1950 and a 1954 at my house, and trust me, they take.
which is the one that Johnny?
We're gonna get Johnny on
Johnny
there,
was on the 1954.
our executive producer.
greatest picture
Nice.
ever. I wish we could throw that thing.
We're gonna throw it on there. So yeah.
But you know, get something to take your mind off. I go home and I gotta clean stalls and throw out hay, whatever. It's fine, right? Like, and I can ride a horse. That's totally de-stressing, right? It's physical activity too, right? Lifting 100-pound hay bales is lots of fun.
Right. But you gotta make time for yourself. That's what he's kind of saying. For you, your family, and yourself, and it's about time management. You know, we always talked about planning ahead and everything, but that's what I want to add is, you know, even being a cop, you got to have some time management with your family, your friends, your lifestyle, because it is a life-altering job, and it's for the better, because you know what, we got in this job because we wanted to do it, and we enjoy it. And we want to help our community, and we love the Nevada State Police. But you still have to make some time for your family and other things, and it's all about managing time. You know, I wasn't good at the beginning at doing that.
It is.
And it's just it's a thing that you can take through time.
You learn, yeah. and-
I agree 1,000%. You know what I'm saying?
If we could teach the young guys to get on this, it'd be more
Well,
beneficial for them, I think,
Yeah.
down the road.
That's why they have. I mean, but on a very serious note, you know,
That's
I mean,
our job.
That's why we have the mentorship.
Yep, that's what. Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And so, you know, like one of the coolest things, you know what I mean, is that when you see people that have authority, like these two gentlemen, that have people that work underneath them, and you see them in the face, and you can look at them, and you know that what they're saying is real. Like, listen, like, this is what I do, so I want to make sure that the people underneath me feel the same or do the same, or what, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you know, most people, you know, they have work and they're inside of a building. And luckily, you know, unless somebody comes into the building or drives a car into that, you know what I mean? They're typically safe. And in this profession, you're 95% not safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the 5%.
Well, you're safe, but it just
You're
depends on
working
what
in
you
a
deal with.
dangerous environment.
Absolutely. It
working
can be.
in a
You know,
dangerous environment.
You know,
You know what I'm saying?
I think it was Ronald Reagan that said this, right? Surround yourself with good people because you become who you hang out with. I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And I tell this to kids all the time, and I'm sure you probably shared it with people you, right? Is when you start out in school, right? You have your group of friends, right? And we generally rise. We like to think we rise to the occasion, but you're only as strong as your weakest link in your group, right? And so for me, my troopers, I have to identify, right? Today it might be Trooper A is the weakest link because his experience is very limited in taking combative subjects into custody, right? And then tomorrow it might be Trooper C who is not experienced with field sobriety tests and was about to put an impaired driver back in the car. And I'm like, well, time out. I can't let you do that. Let's talk about this. What aren't you seeing? Like, because I'm seeing impairment. I'm smelling impairment. I'm hearing impairment. What are you missing? Let's walk through this. Let's talk about the clues to impairment on the first test. What did you see? I didn't see anything. Okay, well, here's probably why you didn't see it, because when I was watching you out of the corner of my eye, you weren't at the proper distance, you weren't at the proper elevation for the stimulus, and your timing was off. You're moving too fast, so you're not going to see. So I'm going to have you do it again. I'm going to have you slow down and do it within the parameters of the training in order to put yourself in a position where you can see impairment if it's there. And lo and behold, There it is. Bing, 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 right? We talk about horizontal gaze nystagmus, right? Dry windshield wipers across a dry windshield, right? And they kind of ratchet. That's what the pupils do when they're, anyway, I get into field sobriety tests, but
We're gonna do that for another segment.
Okay, we'll
we'll
do that
still have
another
you
one,
on there. We'll still have you on there.
9-step, walk and turn, one leg step, right? We can run you through. I mean, I can show. I mean, it's funny because we go to high school classes. I've done this and put people with the drunk goggles on and then have them run through the field sobriety test to show them what impairment feels like, right? And we have,
Bring 'em in.
yeah. I mean, they're
Got 'em in
great
my office.
tools to give young drivers and even adult drivers the experience of what it feels like. Because here's the deal: alcohol is a judgment affecting drug. So is marijuana. So what's the first thing it's going to do? It's going to make you feel okay. So if you wait to make the decision of whether or not you're okay to drive until after you're done partaking, you're always going to get in the
Sorry,
vehicle.
too late.
It's too late. You have to make the commitment before you go out. Look, I'm going out to have a good time, and that's fine. It's legal. But I'm not going to drive. Take a ride share, have my buddy pick me up. Shoot, I tell my boys, like, I will come get you. I don't care where you're at, right? I'll leave the lecture at home. It's really hard. It's really hard as a parent to do that. But I promise you I will do that because I just want you home safe tonight. And if the only thing preventing my child from coming home safe tonight or any other parent's child from coming home safe tonight is the fear that they're going to get lectured, I'm sure there isn't a parent out there that wouldn't check that lecture and wait for a better time. I've made death notifications to families and had to tell them their child's not coming home, and that is rough, right? Or seeing the scene of a collision where there's a child that's deceased, and it's because of a at-fault driver, right? Whether they're impaired or they're just driving reckless. There's nothing worse than that. Like, in my opinion, there's just nothing worse than having to go tell somebody your loved one's not coming home, right? And watching them just completely lose it. And you're like, I don't know what else to do to make you, like, what do I say? What do I do?
Right.
Right? And
100%.
so to prevent that opportunity from having to happen is just the conversation you need to have with yourself before going out. Just leave the car at home. We're in Vegas. I mean, there's so many ride shares available. There's so
There's
many
no excuses.
There's
No excuses.
right.
I tell you what, the next time you come on, okay, I want to do that drunk goggles thing. I don't drink. I don't do drugs.
See,
I
yeah.
don't.
Well, I
partake
also
in-
have
in
marijuana
these-
goggles
in
I
these
can bring
Yeah,
in.
there's some.
I don't
The green ones.
partake in these activities. So like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I drank like maybe like a few years ago the amaretto, and I thought that it was like nice. And then my doctor was like, "Listen, you never drank in your life.
Yeah.
You don't need all this drinking and alcohol and all this type of stuff. So don't do it."
Well, and
so it was like, "Oh, okay. Well, you know what I mean? I didn't know. You know what
you'll
I mean?"
get people that go out to eat, right? But they'll drink on an empty stomach. They'll have a little wine before they get started on their alcohol, and they don't understand how alcohol works in the human body, right? And you know, you've got the pyloric valve at the bottom of the stomach that's open, and generally, if you drink on an empty stomach, that alcohol is going right into your intestinal unit, and it's going to start impairing you very quickly. It's going right into your bloodstream. Versus if you eat a little food first, that pyloric valve shuts, holds the food in the stomach so it digests. Opens up periodically every 45 minutes to an hour and 15 or whatever. It's unknown what the exact time, and it fluctuates. Then it dumps all of that digested food and liquid into your intestines, and it slows that rate of absorption, slows the rate of impairment. A lot of people will tell me, but I waited a couple of hours before driving. Well, that makes it worse, right? You drank on an empty stomach, and then you waited 2 hours for you to get super drunk, and now you're driving home, and again, judgment affected. You think you're fine. But you can't even stand up. You have to use your car for balance. Or you have to use the Jersey wall. And you can watch it on video. The video's going to play in court. Right? I mean, it's hard to...
You can't
You
beat the
can't
video.
argue that.
The whole thing, it comes down, do you want to hang out with a bunch of turkeys or you want to soar like an eagle?
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Hey, there you
You know
go.
what I mean? So,
All right, so let me ask you this. So we're at an hour and 30 minutes. I got to wrap up.
okay.
I want to get to the other pictures and stuff, but
Okay.
here's what I can tell you: the conversation.
They could go on and on and
Right,
on.
no. But the,
You got us
but the
talking, man. We will sit here.
conversation is more important than the pictures. But is there any picture that can wait till next week, or
Oh, yeah. We can wait next week. We can end on this. This is fine.
and because the conversation.
Sorry, I went long.
No, you're good. But I'm glad to have you on. I mean, that's awesome.
The conversation is so important because, number one, from over here, you can see the camaraderie between you guys, okay? And so that's one of the special things that the Nevada State Police provides, is that there's not this animosity between people that work there, right?
Work together.
On top of which, there's this funness of the laughing and the joking and all these type of things. But again, I come back to the fact that, listen, you break the law, you put me up against a wall, and let me just tell you, I'm not losing my job for you. And you are going to face the consequences, whatever those consequences might be. And it's just the way that it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so let's end with some final thoughts.
All right.
I normally would click to the other picture, but I want to end on this picture.
All right.
No, that's fine. That's great.
I want to end on a few different things, okay? The first thing is officer wellness is so important because you go out every single day, you risk your life, and you need time to unwind and just de-stress, however that is. For you, it's doing things like this. For others, it's running down the road. You know what I mean? Like, whatever that would be, officer wellness is so important. And that's something that the Nevada State Police provides in many different ways. And one of the best ways that they provide that is that they allow you to live where you want to live, and you get to work, and you get to drive that take-home car. And so when you leave your house, and you're driving to work, if something should happen, at least you're in your patrol car.
Yeah.
Take action.
And so go.
Yeah, I mean, you're in your, like Trooper Hager said, I start my day in my driveway. That's not my car, but it's my assigned car to get to and from work. And when I'm driving to work, if I hear Donaldson in a fight, I'm coming, right? I'm like, whoop, not on the clock yet, not going. Nah, man, I'm coming. If I'm in a fight, he's coming. You know what I mean? But that's, your day starts right there from wherever you are. And it's such a cool opportunity that we have to live the lifestyle we want, right? In my case, rural. I know Trooper Hagstrom used to run horses too. He knows about it. But who gives you a car to drive home? You know how big that is? To not pay for your own gas. I filled up my car yesterday with gas on the States dollar, right? It was $48 for what, 10, 11 gallons, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember what exactly it was. I'm like, looking at it saying, wow, glad I'm not paying for this, right? That's only half a tank, right? Because we got to fill up at a half tank, right? So that is fantastic, right? The miles, not my miles, not my tires, not my oil changes, right? After I leave the studio here, my car is going to get an oil change. I'm not paying for it. I'm not doing it. I could do it. I'm not doing it though, right? That's the thing. These guys go to the garage, they take a break for an hour, get their tires changed or oil changed, done, good to go, right? So those opportunities that we have, amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
So I was just going to say, so, I always talk about you all the time on the Trooper Talk.
Legend.
Okay.
That's what he calls you.
A legend. I know.
So-
Because the customer, I tell you the story before. So the customer comes in, and the husband, the father and mother, their daughter is the police chief in Washington where you used to work.
okay.
Okay, and they religiously watch Trooper Talk.
They want you
And
back.
so they told their daughter, listen, we saw Trooper Donaldson on the TV show, and he was talking about the DUIs, and their daughter came and it says, well, he's a legend. Okay?
Yeah.
And so they come and they take the Trooper Talk cups and they drink their coffee every morning with the Trooper Talk. But like where you were to create such a name and a legacy for yourself, and then to feel in your life that you're not finished and that you want to do more things like him when he retired, you know, and then you come here and you could have just been a regular trooper, drove your car, did what you did, and nobody would have bothered you. But you became Trooper of the Year. You had the most DUIs in the year. You know, the times that you come on here, we always joke about you because the last time that you came on, or 2 times ago, whatever it was, right? You know, you were 30 minutes late. And
Third
you,
DUI.
and you felt so bad, but you go, look, I arrested 3 DUIs last night. It wasn't my fault. These people were driving, and I had to take them to jail.
Well,
And so we thank you for everything that you do, and you do inspire the people that you work for to do a better job, and everyone says it and commends you.
well, thank you.
And I'll make you
I'm
blush
honored.
again, you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
honored. I will say, you know, a couple of things. You know, starting in a city agency, you know, having to leave my house for work, you know, an hour before my shift starts so that I get there in time, having to change out in the locker room. You know, there's a little camaraderie, fun with the guys you work with. You know, then going and picking your car out. When you're new, you get the oldest POS, right, vehicle out there, and you drive it and you put miles on it till it gets mileaged out. It rattles, it rolls. It's, you know, the air conditioning may or may not work. And so you're investing that hour of your time every day you work. And then at the end of your shift, you got to change out, swap out your car, drive home, fatigued, right? But stay awake long enough to get home so you don't crash. So you're giving roughly 2 hours of your day every day, and you're not being paid for. You give that up when you become a state police officer, whether it's through PMP or whether it's through a highway patrol, because you have that take-home car. So I can't put a price on time that I get to spend extra, right, doing something else or with my family, and that's 2 hours a day. That's a big, I may not get the salary that some of these other agencies get up front, but I don't have to flex my time. Like if some agencies, if you stay over, you have to then flex your time and come in late the next day or go home early because they don't want to incur the overtime. We don't play that game here. They're very good about paying us for the work we do. As far as if you have to stay over because you stop a car on the way home and you get a drunk driver, you don't have to flex your shift the next day. You take that as overtime or comp time. You're being compensated for it. That's really good. And then the other part of this, to speak to what you're talking about, is our reputation, our work ethic. Like I'm proud to work with the troopers that I work with, the PMP officers I work with, that work hard the same way and believe in making their community better, safer. And putting in that time. I know many of my troopers never get off on time because they're actively watching for enforcement opportunities on their way home. And on their way into work, they may not make it to briefing because they're stopping an impaired driver and getting a DUI arrest before we even get started. This is Vegas. City never sleeps. There's no last call for alcohol. So people drink 24/7 in this town. So the DUI opportunity is there. Whereas in some of these rural towns where I was training, last call was at 2 a.m. So once alcohol was stopped being served legally, right, you couldn't buy it at the stores, you couldn't buy it at the bar, it got kind of quiet. And you had to wait until either they caught themselves by crashing, or you had certain areas you might target because they were high volume impaired driving corridors, Interstate 5 from Portland over into Vancouver, Washington, or the 215 bridge, you'd sit and wait. And so you take that work ethic where you have to hunt really hard to find impaired drivers on rural streets, and you bring it down here to where they're everywhere. I mean, you just look around. If you know what to look for, they're everywhere. And so it's not as hard as some people think. Now, if you start in this environment, it might be a little harder because we got to teach you some things to look for impaired drivers. But impaired drivers essentially are driving, for me, they're driving around with neon signs on their head. It's a little easier. So again, as a mentor, that's something I get to teach my guys. Hey, let's look for some things like combination violations, speeding and failing to maintain your travel lane instead of just speed, right? Because a lot of people speed, even sober drivers. So that's not a one-trick pony there. Like, we got to look for other things. Driving with no lights on combined with speeding, right? Multiple lane changes, using downrange vision, right? Watching for that taillight pattern to drift across lanes instead of getting right up on and tailgating somebody. Stay back, stay in the right lane, let people blow by you. People that blow by a marked patrol unit generally can't see the marked patrol unit because they're impaired.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a clue, right? When you're impaired, your field of vision tends to narrow, right? So you don't see the stop signs, you don't see the stoplights, so you tend to blow those because you're just looking down off the hood of your car because you're so impaired, you physically can't get your eyes up. You can't remind yourself to start field checking, right? You just get tired and you just start driving, and boom, people fall asleep at stoplights, and we'll catch them sitting at
pass
a
out.
green, right?
Yeah.
We
You
had
just go on and on about that, and so anyway, I just wanted to say it's I appreciate the recognition, but you know, I got a little bit of extra experience over the years that helped me to do that, and now my job is to pass that on to the younger generation, and I love that Nevada Highway Patrol's allowed an old guy to come in here and come back to work because this is a passion. I enjoy going home at the end of the night knowing I made the roads a little safer because I got an impaired driver off the road tonight before they killed somebody.
Doing
So,
some of God's work.
That's right.
We had a trooper on here that I think it might have been like Trooper Cecina or something where the person was on the off ramp and he pulled in front of the car and the person was passed out in the front seat and had the baby in the back seat.
Yep.
And then somebody else another trooper pulled behind the person, right?
Yep, pinned him
And
in.
he walked up and knocked on the door, and she slammed the gas and hit reverse and would have went, back down the ramp, and who knows what would have happened.
And we used to put spike strips under their tires for that the reason, because they either get spooked or they panic or they just want to go. You know what I mean? And that was the smartest thing, box them in to prevent something from major happening.
Well,
So,
individuals who lose consciousness, pass out, if you will, or even a drug-induced unconsciousness, when they come back around, they generally come back around into the state that they were in before they went
that.
unconscious. And what were they doing before they passed out? They were driving. So a lot of times the car's in gear still, right? Their foot's on the brake. Or they're just at gravity position where the car can't continue to roll because it's a little bit of an uphill slope. I've had people there completely foot off the brake, foot off the gas. Their car just stopped because they're at an uphill intersection. Could roll back, could roll forward, but luckily gravity's holding them. And then as soon as you knock on the window, we tell people, if you come across as a civilian, if you come across a passed out driver, do not try to wake them up or check on them or think it maybe, even if you think it's a medical, call 911. Let the trained professionals do it, because when you knock and wake them up and they take off, now we have the potential for a wrong way driver or a fatality that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So please let a trained professional interact and deal with that, because we have the training, the cars, the vehicles to prevent them from going wrong way.
It's amazing, both of these two guys. You know
Oh,
what I'm
I'm
saying?
glad to get 'em on.
And I love
Absolutely.
when they come in and they talk and all this.
There's a lot of civilian positions out there. We
Dispatchers.
got dispatch. We got administrative positions, all different types of administrative positions for not on NHP and parole and probation. So if they go to NevadaStatePolice.com and they're looking at maybe a civilian job, they want to work in the police, with the police or whatever, but not be the police and be a part of the team, they can do it that way. Also, if you're military and if you're getting ready to get out, we have that bridge program. And that sets you up for 6
Get a
months.
second
You
retirement.
can start working for us 6 months prior while you're still in the service. And they work with you, and you can switch over, and we get you ready for the academy that way. We're also taking laterals. Right here's a lateral, right here. I was a former lateral when I came, 20-some. I won't age it.
Not all state agencies take laterals.
Yeah. No, that's true. Not everyone, but if you're an officer in the state or out of state that want to work for Nevada State Police, come out and check us out. If you always looked in maybe being a parole and probation officer, if you're a student at UNLV and you're taking criminal justice and you're thinking about, hey, I'd like to do parole and probation or Nevada Highway Patrol through Nevada State Police, and also the other divisions later on, you can come out and do a ride-along and see if this is the job that you really want to do. PMP will do a ride-along too, take you out and show you what's going on. And also for the civilian position, like dispatch, we'll have you sit in a dispatch center and you can kind of see what goes on. I mean, I couldn't do their job. It's a multitasking job and you got to be on your game. But I tell you what, there's people that can do that and they would really probably enjoy it. And one thing about our retirement, we pay into a PERS retirement. So once you retire, you have that check the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's a bonus right there. And that we've talked about numerous things of benefits. You might get higher pay in this, but you're not having to take home vehicles and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of other benefits that people don't know, and that's why we put it on the show and kind
Yeah,
of
of course.
talk
Yeah,
about that. But if anybody's interested, we'd love to have you come out. You want to be one of Nevada's finest, I always say.
Yep.
Come look us up at nevadastatepolice.com, and there's plenty of opportunities out there, and we'd love to have you.
And that lateral program, we don't pay a state income tax here. So you retire from another agency in another state, you come here, right? So consider those options, right? That's one of the things I looked at. And we just had our first day of rain in 217 days today.
Well, you know what? He texted me
came
this
from the
morning. He
rain.
goes,
Yeah.
"What is this liquid stuff falling out of the sky, Sean?" And I have to go, ah, ha, ha, ha. But on the
haven't
other
seen
hand, we
it.
might have a lot of crashes, I told him. But I tell you what, yeah,
Once a
we
year,
haven't seen
twice a year,
the
I'll
rain.
take it.
I mean, it's
Because
crazy.
in
Once-
Washington,
once
it
a
rained
year.
all the
I
time.
never thought about the retirement coming from another state,
Yeah.
and then you get it, then you don't have to pay taxes. on
Well,
it.
I mean, you got to look at your retirement, look at those things. But I pick up, come here, pick up a second retirement because it's the gift that keeps on giving.
So can I ask, before we end, can I ask you something on a
Sure.
sort of personal level?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to ask this, but I'm just going to ask it.
Yeah.
The money that you get from your retirement up there,
Mm-hmm.
now that you live in a state that has no income tax, you don't have to pay income tax on that money.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Washington pays
so
me.
if you lived in if you had your retirement and you lived in a state that had income tax, you would essentially have to pay that income tax every year. So by living here, you're actually making more
money by living here.
Yeah,
Committing tax
Washington is paying me not to do law enforcement in their state anymore.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it because I am of age where I can collect. Now, a lot of my buddies are still working. I don't understand why, because you can collect that check. Like, why are you staying? But they're making good money. You do you, right? Okay. But for me, it made more sense to go to another agency where I can take my skills, learn some new skills, collect a second retirement.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're government employees. We don't have the best in retirement. There's a lot of people out there that get way more. But again, there's nothing like being able to collect a check every month
All right, for the rest of your life.
for the rest of my life. And if something happens to me, my wife gets that check.
Your spouse gets it.
Yeah, it's not like when you're paying in a 401 and then you got to worry about these. Remember the Enron and something goes bad.
Yeah.
In order for something to go bad, it'd have to be nationwide, or
Really
the
bad.
state would have to collapse. You're going to get paid because of the tax system. You know what I mean?
She's
So
getting.
it's a-
If something
absolutely.
happens to me, I know my wife is taken care of because she's going to keep getting that same check.
And that means a lot to you.
Absolutely.
know
I don't
what I'm
want to
saying?
leave her ill prepared or have to go back to work when she's of retirement age. Like it's not. She's done her deed. Spouses of law enforcement,
Put the time in.
kudos to
We
you
met your
because we could not do this job if we didn't have that support at home. And they don't get the recognition. They don't get the thanks. Our department does a good job of that, but not a lot of departments do that. And so,
That's
don't-
like the,
I would
That's like
tell
the
you-
ceremonies
I,
at the-
I will tell
yeah.
you this: that it is one of the most special things that I get to see at the ceremonies.
yeah. When we give them flowers.
Is
yeah,
that
like
it
spouses.
is that which they did to your wife?
Yeah.
So let's wave right here, and we'll say goodbye. Okay. All right. See you guys
All
later.
right.